Buddhism was indeed founded by Siddhartha Gautama, who later became known as Gautam Buddha, Sakya Muni, or Tathagat. The teachings of Buddhism are based on three fundamental pillars. Buddha refers to Siddhartha Gautama himself, who achieved enlightenment and became a Buddha, meaning an awakened or enlightened one. He spent years in meditation and self-discovery, eventually attaining a state of complete understanding of the nature of suffering and the path to its cessation. Dhamma. This term refers to the teachings or the doctrine of Buddhism. The Dhamma encompasses the Four Noble Truths, which are the foundational principles that address the nature of suffering, its origin, its cessation, and the path leading to its cessation, the Eightfold Path. The Dhamma provides guidance for individuals seeking to understand and transcend suffering. Sangha. The Sangha represents the community of Buddhist monks and nuns. These individuals have chosen to live a monastic life dedicated to the practice, study, and propagation of the Buddha's teachings. The Sangha provides support and a structured environment for those seeking spiritual growth and enlightenment. These three pillars of Buddhism together form the core framework that guides Buddhist practice, philosophy, and way of life. Siddhartha Gautama was born in 563 BC in Lumbini, which is in present-day Nepal. His birth took place in a grove of sal trees within the Lumbini garden. His mother was Mahamaya, a Koshulan princess, and his father was Suddhodana, a member of the Sakya tribe. Siddhartha's birth name was Siddhartha, and his family Gotra, clan, was Gautam. However, he later became known as Gautam Buddha after attaining enlightenment. Tragically, Siddhartha's mother Mahamaya passed away just 7 days after his birth. He was then raised by his maternal aunt and stepmother, Mahaprajapati Gautami. At the age of 29, Siddhartha Gautama was deeply moved by the suffering and misery he witnessed in the world. This realization prompted him to leave behind his life of comfort and embark on a spiritual journey to seek the solution to human suffering. The event of Siddhartha leaving his princely life behind to seek spiritual truth is known as Mahabhainashkramana, or the Great Going Forth. Siddhartha's conception of religion was primarily ethical and focused on addressing the suffering that humanity experienced. His teachings revolved around understanding the nature of suffering, the causes of suffering, and the path to liberation from suffering through ethical conduct, mental development, and wisdom. Enlightenment. Gautam Buddha attained enlightenment under the Bodhi tree in Gaya, Bihar. This event marked the culmination of his spiritual journey and the realization of the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. Concept of soul. According to Buddha's teachings, the concept of an eternal, unchanging soul, Atman, is considered a misconception. He emphasized the impermanence and interconnectedness of all things, including the self. First sermon. Gautam Buddha delivered his first sermon at Sarnath, which was previously known as Rishipattan. This sermon is known as the Dharma Chakra Pravartan, or the turning of the wheel of law. In this discourse, he explained the Four Noble Truths and introduced the Eightfold Path. Last days. Buddha spent his final days near Vaishali, an ancient city in present-day Bihar. His passing took place in Kushinagar, in the outskirts of the capital of the Mallas, at the age of 80. Passing away, after accepting a meal offered by a man named Chund in Pava, Buddha fell ill with dysentery. He passed away as a result of this illness. His death is referred to as Mahaparinirvana, which signifies the final liberation or ultimate enlightenment. It's often symbolized as the final blowing out. Favorite disciple. Ananda, one of Buddha's closest and most devoted disciples, is often regarded as his favorite disciple. Ananda played a significant role in preserving and transmitting Buddha's teachings after his passing. The truth of suffering, dukkha. This truth acknowledges that life is characterized by suffering, unsatisfactoriness, and dissatisfaction. It encompasses physical and mental pain, as well as the inherent impermanence and unpredictability of existence. The truth of the cause of suffering, samudaya. This truth identifies desire, attachment, and craving as the root cause of suffering. The concept of pratitya samutpada, often translated as dependent origination or dependent arising, explains how the various elements of existence are interdependent and arise due to causes and conditions. The truth of the cessation of suffering, nirodha. This truth suggests that there is a way to end suffering by eliminating desire and attachment. It points towards the possibility of achieving a state of liberation, freedom, or enlightenment, where suffering ceases to exist. The truth of the path to the cessation of suffering, Magga. This truth presents the Eightfold Path, which is a comprehensive guideline for ethical and mental development that leads to the cessation of suffering. The Eightfold Path consists of 8 interconnected aspects or practices that individuals can cultivate to lead a balanced and enlightened life. The second truth you mentioned is indeed based on the principle of Pratitya Samutpada, which describes the interconnectedness and interdependence of all phenomena. It outlines how various factors, conditions, and causes come together to give rise to the world as we experience it. The Eightfold Path is a core teaching of Buddhism and serves as a guide to ethical and mental development that leads to the cessation of suffering and the attainment of enlightenment. Here's a brief explanation of each component. Right understanding, Samma Ditthi. This refers to having a correct and insightful understanding of the Four Noble Truths, the nature of reality, and the impermanent and interconnected nature of all things. Right thought, Samma Sankappa. This involves cultivating wholesome thoughts and intentions, such as thoughts of kindness, compassion, and non-harm. Right speech, Samma Vaka. This emphasizes truthful, kind, and mindful communication. It encourages refraining from lying, gossiping, harsh speech, and divisive speech. Right action, Samma Kammanta. This pertains to ethical conduct and actions that are in line with the principles of non-harming and compassion. It includes refraining from killing, stealing, and engaging in sexual misconduct. Right livelihood, Samma Ajiva. This addresses one's occupation and livelihood. It suggests engaging in a profession that doesn't harm others or oneself and supports a life of ethical integrity. Right effort, Samma Vayama. This involves the persistent effort to cultivate wholesome qualities, abandon unwholesome ones, and maintain a balanced state of mind. Right mindfulness, Samma Sati. This is the practice of cultivating present moment awareness and mindfulness. It involves being fully aware of one's thoughts, feelings, bodily sensations, and the surrounding environment. Right concentration, Samma Samadhi. This refers to the development of focused and concentrated states of mind through meditation. It leads to deep states of absorption and insight, facilitating a clear understanding of reality.
Do not convert the property of others. This can be related to the principle of not stealing, which is one of the 5 precepts. It encourages practitioners to refrain from taking what belongs to others. Do not commit violence. This corresponds to the principle of not killing or causing harm to living beings, which is another of the 5 precepts. Do not use intoxicants. This aligns with the principle of refraining from using substances that cloud the mind and impair one's judgment. The consumption of intoxicants can lead to harmful behavior and break the precept of not harming oneself or others. Do not tell a lie. This corresponds to the principle of truthful speech, which is an aspect of the right speech component of the Eightfold Path. Do not indulge in corrupt practices. This can be understood in the context of practicing ethical conduct and refraining from harmful actions, which is the broader aim of the 5 precepts.
Nirvana is a central concept in Buddhism, representing the ultimate goal of spiritual practice. It is often described as a state of complete liberation, enlightenment, and freedom from suffering. Nirvana goes beyond mere intellectual understanding and involves direct experiential realization. Nirvana is characterized by freedom from suffering. It signifies the end of the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, samsara, which is marked by suffering and unsatisfactoriness. Attaining nirvana means transcending the cycle of suffering and achieving a state of peace and contentment. Freedom from attachments and desires. Nirvana involves the cessation of craving, attachment, and the ignorance that bind individuals to the cycle of samsara. By eliminating these mental defilements, one can break free from the causes of suffering. Belief in ahimsa, non-violence. Ahimsa is a principle of non-violence and non-harming. It's a core value in Buddhism, as well as other Indian religions. Practicing ahimsa involves refraining from causing harm to any living beings, both through physical actions and mental intentions. This principle aligns with the Buddha's teachings of compassion and empathy.
First Buddhist Council, c. 483 BC. This council was held shortly after the passing of Gautam Buddha. It took place in Rajgaha, modern-day Rajgir, India, and was convened by King Ajatasattu. The primary purpose was to compile and recite the Buddha's teachings, called the Tripitaka, 3 baskets, Vinaya, monastic rules, Sutta, discourses, and Abhidhamma, philosophical analysis. Second Buddhist Council, c. 383 BC. This council took place in Vesli, modern-day Vaishali, India. It was convened due to disputes over monastic discipline, particularly concerning the relaxed rules for food and behavior. The council led to the division of the monastic community into 2 groups, which later gave rise to different schools of Buddhism. Third Buddhist Council, c. 250 BC. The Third Council was held in Patliputra, modern-day Patna, India, under the patronage of King Ashoka. The primary focus was on clarifying and purifying the monastic rules. The council resulted in the expulsion of a group of monks who held differing views, leading to further division within the Buddhist community. Fourth Buddhist Council, c. 1st century AD. There are differing accounts of the Fourth Council, with some sources mentioning it as one event and others as a series of councils. The most well-known account is the Theravada Traditions Council held in Sri Lanka to compile the Tripitaka in written form. During Kanishka's time, Buddhist religion clearly got divided between Hinayana and Mahayana Buddhism. Hinayana Buddhism, also known as Theravada Buddhism, this is one of the earliest branches of Buddhism. It emphasizes the original teachings of Gautam Buddha and focuses on individual enlightenment and liberation from suffering, nirvana. Hinayana practitioners seek to achieve personal enlightenment through following the Eightfold Path and the monastic Vinaya rules. Mahayana Buddhism, this branch emerged after the early divisions and emphasizes the ideal of the Bodhisattva, an enlightened being who chooses to delay their own nirvana in order to help all other beings attain enlightenment. Mahayana teachings extend compassion and aspiration for enlightenment beyond personal liberation to benefit all sentient beings. Mahayana scriptures also include sutras that were not present in the Theravada canon. Vajrayana Buddhism, Vajrayana, often associated with Tibetan Buddhism, is a form of Tantric Buddhism that emerged later. It emphasizes the use of advanced practices, rituals, mantras, and meditation techniques to achieve enlightenment in a single lifetime. Vajrayana incorporates elements of Mahayana and also introduces the concept of skillful means, upaya, to adapt teachings to the capacities of different individuals. Nagarjuna, mentioned in your description, was a prominent philosopher who significantly contributed to the development of Mahayana Buddhist thought. He is known for his philosophy of sunyata, emptiness, which explores the nature of reality and the interdependence of all phenomena. Additionally, your mention of the expansion of the Bodhisattva pantheon and the use of mantras, mandalas, and rituals aligns with the characteristics of Vajrayana Buddhism, which often incorporates esoteric practices and diverse deities. Buddhist literature in Buddha texts. The most famous is Tripitaka. As mentioned below, Vinaya Pitaka. It contains the rules and regulations of monastic discipline for monks. An account of the life and teaching of the Buddha is also given. Sutta Pitaka. Few discourses delivered by many Buddhist scholars like Sariputta, Ananda, and others are given in it. It lays down the principles of Buddhism. It is a collection of Buddha's sermon and is divided into 5 groups. Abhidhamma Pitaka, having the philosophy of Buddha's teachings, it investigates mind and matter to help the understanding of things as they truly are. Abhidhamma Pitaka, this section is more philosophical and analytical in nature. It provides a detailed examination of the teachings found in the Sutta Pitaka, delving into the nature of reality, the mind, and the nature of phenomena. The Abhidhamma Pitaka seeks to provide a systematic and detailed understanding of the teachings and their implications. Together, these three divisions of the Tripitaka cover a wide range of topics and provide a comprehensive guide to Buddhist teachings, ethics, philosophy, and practices. The Tripitaka serves as a foundational source for various Buddhist traditions and schools, and its teachings have been studied, preserved, and transmitted over the centuries.